More than
Oh, good. Yeah, last time, what, you had like,
it was a choice. You guys ready? Cool. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Delaney Hall. I'm a morning anchor at 8 News, and I'm very glad to be here with all of you wonderful people and our wonderful panelists. We're here to talk today about DPOR's role in reducing barriers for skilled workers and helping to fill critical in-demand jobs. Today's really going to be an open and honest conversation. At the end, we'll open up questions to you all. If you have any questions for these panelists, if you think of any, just write them down and save them for the end. I want to start with Carrie O'Brien. She's the communications manager. Thanks for joining us. I'll go ahead and give you the mic so we can keep it going. I think it's on.
Hello.
It is on. All right. Carrie, if you could just lead us off and first explain who is DPOR and what do you all do?
Well, thank you. Thank you all for being here, first of all. Yes, Carrie O'Brien, Communications Manager and Digital Media Manager for DPOR. And DPOR stands for the Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation. For those who don't know, it is a mouthful, we know that. But we do a lot at DPOR. So DPOR is an executive branch agency that oversees 18 regulatory boards and programs. DPOR issues professional credentials. So we're talking about licenses, certificates, registrations to individuals and businesses all throughout the Commonwealth. And those professions range from contracting to cosmetology, barbers, estheticians, real estate brokers, real estate salespeople, architects. We even license boxers and wrestlers, and that's just a few of what we do. We serve over 300,000 plus individuals and businesses across the Commonwealth. And we are also a public safety agency. We assure the public health and safety of those in the Commonwealth by verifying minimum competency of those that we license. We also investigate complaints, and we make sure that our licensees are in compliance and upholding the laws and regulations.
Okay. If a business isn't following standards or someone believes they've been harmed by a DPOR license, does DPOR investigate that?
Yes, DPOR does, and if you believe you've been harmed by one of our licensees, we encourage you to file a complaint. That is something you can do right on our website, and our team will investigate to see if there is a regulatory violation. And often they will work with the business to get them in compliance, but sometimes then our boards might take disciplinary action. That could be a fine, that could be a suspension, or the most serious, they could revoke a license.
You kind of touched on it, but how can you report fraud if someone uses a license that isn't theirs or has a license and sells it to someone else? Is that just reporting it online?
Yes, so there's a number you could call as well, but right online, it's very easy. There's a form you can fill out, there's an email, and you can send it right to our team, and they'll look into it.
Nice. Just overall arching, is there anything else that you think you'd like to touch on, just in general?
Well, I will say we're going to talk about some transformations happening at DPOR today, and I'll bridge into that. I'll let Mitch take over on a lot of that, but I'll bridge into that by saying that DPOR is really trying to increase its engagement and outreach with the community and licensees. First of all, with events like this being here today, but also on our social media pages. We are consistently communicating on our social media, and that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Please follow us at Virginia DPOR. There we share information about new laws, regulations. We share information about how to renew your license, what to do if you're changing your address. We share information about our board meetings, and those are meetings where if you're having an issue or concern with your profession or industry, you can always come to those board meetings and bring that up there. We have public comment. We have a public comment period at all of our board meetings. We also share consumer information. In fact, just today we put some out on our social media and a press release out to warn consumers, especially our Virginians in Virginia Beach, to be on the lookout and be aware of scams. We know that a lot of folks have suffered damage there with the storms, and unfortunately it is a time when bad actors like to prey on the vulnerable and those who are coping with damage. So our websites can be a great source of information, our social media and our website can be a great source of information there. And we look for more opportunities. So as this conversation moves on today, I encourage you to share any suggestions or ideas you have for us.
Yeah, Carrie, thank you. Mitch, I will give this to you. Sorry, I don't want to reach over and Carrie. That's okay. It's okay. We're rolling with it. This is Mitch Mellis, DPOR Director. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Carrie touched on it a little bit, but there are changes coming. Can you kind of allude to what those changes are?
Sure. Changes, we started changes in January of last year upon the inauguration of Governor Youngkin. We started pretty quickly making changes at DPOR from staffing up to making sure that our digital transformation would begin through licensing software. And we want to make it easier for applicants, current business and licensees to be able to apply, renew their license, pay for their license, to know where they are in the process from a transparency standpoint is very important. To be able to log in and be able to see if you have multiple licenses, more than one, we want to get to a point where you can see them all under one screen. And really just make it more transparent when you're applying for a new license or when you're upgrading a license. And then on the complaint side, equally for consumers, when you're filing a complaint, we want that process to be seamless. Through a variety of improvements we made in the last year, we've taken our processing time of completed applications from about 35 to 60, depending on which license it was, down to 14. And so we're very pleased to be able to offer a more expedited service for those waiting for licenses.
Nice. The governor recently signed into a law an agency bill called the Universal License Recognition. Can you explain what that is and how it will benefit businesses across the Commonwealth?
Absolutely. So DPOR is under the Secretary of Labor's office. Workforce has been a very important area for the Secretary of Labor and the governor. And we did start immediately working on efforts to answer some of what we were hearing, which was businesses are having a hard time finding skilled workers. And so one of the areas we focused on is allowing individuals who are licensed in other states properly, who have a good track record of being licensed, no disciplinary action, that if you come to Virginia, not needing to start from scratch, so not needing to go back to school, not needing to retake examinations that perhaps those folks took 20 years ago, because that actually keeps people from coming in. When we ask individuals, you know, what kept you from it, having to go back and take an examination that they took 20 years ago can be very intimidating. And so what Universal License Recognition does, and will do beginning on July 1, is those individuals will be able to come into the state as long as they have 3 years of experience and they've been doing the same scope of practice in that other state, and apply for licensure in a much more expedited fashion and not have to redo and repeat a lot of those areas. This is significant in the area of skilled workers in construction because, you know, the plumbing industries, all of our HVAC, electrical, all of our trades areas are experiencing severe shortages, and we believe this has dramatic impacts to businesses, but also to housing and the ability to build houses in quicker time period to be able to help sustain or reduce the cost of housing, which is currently seeing a significant increase.
Nice. This next question is probably for you, Mitch, as well as Barry Moore down there on the corner, but DPOR and the BBB can also be a resource for consumers. How so?
Absolutely. So consumers, as Carrie mentioned, we license everything from real estate to nail technicians to your barber. We license contractors, so home improvement. So any of those occupations, before you hire somebody, come to our website and check to see that they are licensed. I was on the investigative side at DPOR, and I cannot tell you how many times after the fact that somebody ended up in a bad situation with a contractor, and I mentioned, did you look at our license lookup? And the answer was, no, I didn't. They could have prevented being in a situation where they lost, thousands of dollars and sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars by simply looking and seeing if that person was licensed or if that company was licensed. But the same goes for personal care as well. When you're going to a hair salon, when you're going to a nail salon, when you're purchasing or selling a home, checking your real estate agent, making sure that they're licensed. And it's not just licensed. You can also see whether or not they have a complaint history. And that's not necessarily immediate, I don't want to go with them, but what it does is empower you as a consumer to make an educated decision and say, okay, they had one violation in 35 years, or perhaps even calling us to say, hey, they have this violation. What was that about? Can you tell us more about it?
If you don't mind passing the mic down to Barry. Barry, if you just want to quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll follow up a little bit. So I'm Barry Moore, President and CEO of the Better Business Bureau, serving Central Virginia. We serve 42 counties. We have a small team. We have 13 employees, including part-timers. We've been around in the nation since 1912, the Better Business Bureau. We are a nonprofit. We are not a government agency. We have no jurisdiction or any empowerment or anything we can make you do is other than just speak to each other. So we make the commitment, if you become accredited, that you get vetted in an application, you pay us a fee, and you agree to a certain amount of standards, about 37 of them, depending on your industry. That being said, on the other side, we have consumers. So I work for each one of you in this room if you live in our 42 counties. So I have a lot of bosses, right? And what I mean by that is we want to serve you. I don't care if you own a business. I don't care if you work for a company. As a consumer, we want you to be protected and go to day and cut out scams and fraud. The way we do that is ask you to go, before you do any transaction, anything, doctor, ambulance. If you're going by ambulance to a hospital, don't worry about it. Just go to a hospital. But if you got time to plan to go to a doctor or a hospital or a electrical contractor, check them out at bbb.org. One side, they're going to show accredited businesses. The other side, not accredited. You have a choice as a consumer. If you're an accredited business and you're in this room, I encourage you, before you go out and get a vendor or do business with anyone, check them out at bbb.org. Do business with people like you that that banner doesn't do it, but we have a lot of banners that say, start with trust, morals, ethics, respect. That's what we stand for. 1912, we started in Richmond in 1956. We have about 3,200 companies we represent. And again, I look at it that we look to protect each of you consumers more than the business. Everything else will fall in line if we just start for 90 days. If I get every citizen in 42 counties to not do a transaction without going to bbb.org, where we go to DPOR and make sure a contractor is licensed or an attorney is licensed. If the complaints are open, we want them solved. And I will tell you a quick story. $7,000 from Chesterfield to Florida, $7,000 quote to get moved. The lady's husband is ill. This really happened about 3 months ago. Husband was ill. She made all the decisions. They've been married a long time. They're moving to Florida. $7,000 quote turned into a $14,000 reality before they left Chesterfield. She had no choice. Didn't want to tell her husband, who's not doing well. She wanted to handle it. God bless, right? She gets to Florida. They were a week or 2 weeks late. $21,000. So they started at 7. 21, they held their stuff hostage. They would not open the crate. It's in their contract if you don't read contracts. But the whole point of my story is, if this woman would have gone to bbb.org, would have seen the contractor she picked, the moving company, was not accredited, had an F rating, and had all these complaints out there. And there is a difference between rated by the BBB versus accredited by the BBB. Anybody is rated by the BBB, so be careful on that. Thank you. Long answer to a short question.
That's okay. It was a great answer. I'm so knowledgeable. You kind of touched on it, and I'd love to hear, Barry, your perspective as well as DPOR's perspective. What tips do you have for people when they do need to hire a contractor? What are some big things to look out for?
Yeah, get a, and I've been on the for-profit. We're a nonprofit, so normally in nonprofit jobs, you have nonprofit people that come up through the ranks. I'm different. I come from the for-profit world, so I see things like the way you folks would see it if you're in business. So I would say that going to bbb.org, checking it out, getting a written quote. I come out of the auto industry, so when you go shop for a car, you all want a worksheet and you want a price quote, right? And how long is it good for? There are still contractors out there not doing contracts in writing, which, and you might be sitting in the room. I don't understand that because it's your protection more than the consumer in this day and age. So I would say that's an important one, and I'm sure DPOR has other things, making sure they're licensed. But again, I'm always going to go back to, and it's not a job to me. This is I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I come down here to this job, this community, because I love this community. I made my living here. My daughter went to kindergarten through William & Mary and now works for the Department of State. This area has been great to me, and I owe it something. That's why I'm back here. But my wife still lives in Pittsburgh. So I am a nonprofit that works for you, so trust my instinct, trust my words. Personally, you don't know me, just follow our lead. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and I have a staff of, like I said, 13 people that do an amazing job, but I'm sure you guys have other rules to think about. But go from there. How else would you check out companies?
Hi, good afternoon. I am Marjorie King. I'm the Executive Director of the Board for Contractors, and we do have many tips on hiring a contractor. The first tip is always hire a licensed contractor. As Mitch had indicated, you're going to want to verify their licensure via our license lookup on our website. You can always call us if you can't seem to find them, but you're always going to want to get 3 quotes, 3 references, and don't always go with the cheapest quote. You're going to want to ask yourself, why are they cheap?
Another benefit of hiring a licensed contractor, because I have had consumers say, well, the person that's unlicensed, I know that they can do good work. And just a word of caution, certainly references are helpful. At the same time, we don't always know the quality of the work, even though we think the reference gave us good information. But the important part is that Virginia has a transaction recovery fund. So if a person is licensed and you've been harmed, there is a process by which you can recover up to $20,000 of your lost money. If the person is not licensed, you do not have access to the transaction recovery fund, and you're usually left to just the civil process on your own to navigate and try and sue that individual who typically doesn't have any assets to sue anyway. So there's a multitude of reasons to hire, and if you are a licensed contractor, I encourage you to share that when you're giving quotes to others and say, hey, I went through the right steps. I have the education experience, took the examinations, and sets me aside and higher than perhaps others.
Yes, I have a few more that I'll add to that. First of all, this one I can't stress it enough. Please never pay for the job up front, the full job up front. We suggest 10% down, no more than 30%. And never pay in cash. I know that is something that the BBB stresses all the time. You don't have as many, you're not left with much recourse if you pay in cash. If you have to dispute something with a credit card, you have a little more options there. And never pay for the final job until it's complete and you are satisfied. Talk to the contractor. Most contractors are going to want to work with you. They're going to want you to be satisfied with the job that you did. And document everything. Keep that contract, making sure you, as Barry mentioned, have that contract in writing. But keep that contract, keep record of any emails or text communications that you had with the contractor, because if something does go wrong later down the road, that could all come into play and could be helpful to our investigators if you do end up having to file a complaint.
In terms of the requirement for the contract, I know Barry mentioned, you should always make sure they have a contract. Virginia regulation requires that a contractor have a contract. And so I will say to you all, never, ever enter into a non-written contract with a contractor. You have every right to say to that individual, hey, I need this to be in writing. And you'd be surprised, some of the most legitimate, large-size companies oftentimes will start without a contract. The contracts have to have their license number on it. Make sure you look that up. It's another avenue for you to do your double check. And this one goes without saying, but oftentimes if you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. There are strong arm tactics on door-to-door sales. Virginia does have some door-to-door sales protections that if the sale was done via door-to-door solicitation for, let's say somebody stops in and says, hey, I got quotes for windows. If it's a door-to-door solicitation, you have 3 days to be able to cancel that and get your money back. The one that I've gotten approached at least once a year or once every 2 years is I have leftover material. Driveway, mulch, other things. Two questions there. The first is, how did they mess up so much on their order of material? It makes you draw a question about the individual. And two, I've even had folks say, Jason next door told me you might want some of this mulch. And they often never did any business with Jason next door. But they looked up and saw what their name is, and they will use that as a way to say, hey, I've got some extra asphalt. I can pave your driveway. I've seen people's savings of up $10,000, $15,000 for a driveway in a check given to somebody, or cash or money order, particularly the elderly. So the scams happen. If you get the feeling that something isn't right, it probably isn't. And no deal that good is typically real. So take your time on all these transactions.
All good tips. So say we go searching for a contractor. We get the 3 different quotes. We find the perfect one, but something goes wrong. How can you file a complaint, and where do you file one?
Yeah, so with DPOR, it's going to be the same mechanism. You're going to file a complaint through our website. Again, on the very front, you're going to get there. It'll have a file a complaint drop down. And you can complete the PDF there and send it in to us. It is a process by which we will then look at it on our end and see whether or not there's sufficient evidence of a violation, whether the individual is licensed, whether it's in a jurisdiction. Some of these contracts and situations do happen outside of the Commonwealth, and people submit them to us. So there's a process that we review it. But overall, it's a regulatory review process. Unfortunately, just for full transparency, oftentimes we do not have the ability to get your money back. There is a transaction recovery fund for contractors, but some of the other professions, we will oftentimes not be able to get your money back. That's not what we are there for. What we are there to do is take action against that licensee for violating the regulations. Now, within that process, oftentimes people will, and we do have a mediation division that if both parties agree, we can also enter into a mediation with the contractor and be able to find a solution that meets everybody's happy when they walk away. But typically, if there is a violation, it would go to the board. And at that point, both parties have gone to a hearing. As the complainant, the respondent have gone to a hearing. It goes before the board, and they decide whether to suspend, revoke, or fine that licensee.
Yes, Barry, when it comes to someone filing a complaint, should they also make one through the BBB? Can you guys help in any way?
Yeah, so we absolutely, that's what we do at bbb.org. You could put reviews up there. And as you guys, as business people, encourage people to give you good reviews. There's public sites out there, and there's a nonprofit site. The for-profits are the companies probably in California. I'm not going to go through and list them because I'm being recorded, but you can know who they are, right? And we are a nonprofit, so you can put reviews. Good reviews are a great thing. good reviews could be manufactured. We try to verify as well their right IP address and they're not duplicating or you're not hitting up a competitor. But you go to our site to also register a complaint as a consumer. And then our operations team just takes that complaint, sends it to the accredited business or non-accredited company and asks them to get back to the consumer within X amount of time. At that point, and someday I with computers now share between all agencies because I think there's so much volume of information that we're doing and can find people faster, but there are different regulations. The regulatory agency or their proper title, I'm a nonprofit. We talk, but we don't talk in certain ways. And I understand that. There are certain industries, it's funny that we have one gentleman and he believes his industry should be regulated for complaints. Photography and video for weddings. People are getting scammed left and right. He says we should be licensed. He's a professional. He wants to pay a fee to somebody. But the way they do it, I talked to Carrie, is legislation, right? So we have an obligation to go to our delegates and senators in the Commonwealth to ask for certain help, but they can guide us quickly to get to the right end and the right group of people to talk to. But our they're listed under the company name, and there are some complaints or some issues that I believe are somewhat manufactured. Some are very much straight on, point on, and the people were ripped off, right? And there's everything in between. As a society, we are all, as far as storytellers. We're sitting up here, 5 people telling stories, right? And you guys are listening. We're either creating something in your mind that's truth and accurate, or we're misleading you. We are absolutely telling you what you need to know, right? In my opinion. And I know everything we're saying is spot on. So if that answers the question, yeah, go to bbb.org, look at the complaints, look at the reviews, do the research. The Attorney General, I will do a plug for him. In his office, they will be here May 23rd. If you'd like to go to that, the Attorney General is disrupting scams and fraud is a topic that we're going to be doing. And we have somebody from the IABB, International Better Business Bureau, who all the research. We do so much research as a nonprofit to help consumers and business people and government to find out things that are happening in scams all over the country. And you can get that at bbb.org/scam tracker. And you wouldn't believe the things you can read about. Mitch hit on some of them. Never give a gift card. Storm chasers, if you don't know what a storm chaser is, they're not in your industry. That's similar to the letter you guys sent out, right? The warning today in Virginia Beach, be careful. People come in, you have a hailstorm, they're going to do a roof for half price, but you're going to go to Walmart, get them a $7,000 gift card, but they'll be back tomorrow. They're not showing back up, and there's no tracking. And they never had a license in this state, by the way.
All good tips. Marjorie, this next question's for you. DPOR has been making changes to help break down barriers and build opportunity for contractors in Virginia's growing Hispanic and Latino workforce. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. Beginning October 1st of last year, the Board for Contractors now offers 19 examinations in Spanish, and we also have instructions for all of our applications translated in Spanish available on our website as well.
So in order to take that exam in Spanish, can you just do it on the website, or is there a certain process for how that all works?
There are 3 examinations you may complete without obtaining pre-approval, and that is all done through our exam vendor, PSI. You would go to psiexams.com and register for those exams. All the other examinations require pre-approval, and in order to obtain pre-approval, you would need to meet the eligibility requirements, submit an application, have that application reviewed, and then you would be approved for the examination.
Like any good exam, most people want to study, right? So do you have a list of companies that teach a course on how you can successfully pass an exam?
Unfortunately, no, the board does not endorse any of those companies that will help you pass the exam, but there are courses that the board endorses that are pre-licensed courses that are required, that are available in Spanish.
Where would someone go for classes?
Well, there is a list on our website. It's about a 15-page long list that you can select one off of there and simply contact them and complete that course.
Nice. So we've talked a lot about contracting, the only profession that you guys specialize in. We're talking about nail techs, cosmetologists, and will those exams also be available in Spanish?
Well, I'll pass that on.
Yeah, just pass it on.
Yeah, so we are looking at need. What we don't want to do is create examinations. The process of creating an examination in a different language is very expensive and time consuming. Mm-hmm. So what we are currently doing is assessing demand and in which areas. Our goal was to, as quickly as possible, be able to get some information and changes out. And so within 6 months, we were able to get the Spanish contractors examinations translated and get some instructions out. We have for years and currently still do offer all of our cosmetology, barbering, and related exams in Spanish. And in fact, we offer them in Spanish, Korean, and 2 to 3 other languages that I'm not recalling at the moment. Vietnamese, and 1 or 2 others. So we offer a slew of language opportunity to take exams in those as well. But yes, we are looking, and it is an initiative of the governors to be able to have much more of our the government services accessible in multiple languages that are in demand.
In terms of registration and costs that go ahead of the licensing testing process, how much preparation should people be prepared for?
As far as a dollar value, it really does vary across which exam you're taking. We have licenses, some of which require very little preparation. We have others that require, years of training. It really is dependent on the occupation, our exam. The good news is that these are all competitive processes for our procurement process, meaning we always seek every several years to go and find the most competitive price point to ensure that Virginia citizens are getting a good deal. And so it is a competitive process, and Virginia has some of the lowest getting licensure from across the country.
Good to know. Who exactly decides what industries are regulated by DPOR, and why are some industries regulated versus not? I know Barry mentioned like wedding photography, for example.
Sure. The decision to regulate is the Virginia General Assembly. So Virginia General Assembly, they write the laws. So your local delegate, your local senator, and the General Assembly that meets once a year, they make the decision of who to regulate. What they do is decide who to regulate and what agency should regulate that particular profession. And so that's where DPOR comes in on the non-health professions. And we are told by the General Assembly, DPOR, you will regulate this profession. From there, a regulatory board is composed, and that's usually anywhere from 9 to 12 appointees of the governor, who are usually required to have a variety of backgrounds in those industries. So they're considered to be experienced, but also a citizen representative, and usually 2 citizen representatives to ensure the citizens are represented. And so that will then decide how to go about regulating that particular profession.
Okay. Is there anything that any of you, we've talked about contractors, we're talking about licensing, the testing process, what the BBB, how they can help consumers. Is there anything else big that you think would be really helpful for the folks here to know about?
I'll start by saying contact us. I know it can be very overwhelming, or other reasons people decide not to contact a government agency, but please do. Please reach out. We really are welcoming. We are an ally to business, to consumers. Our goal is to help people navigate through the processes that exist. And the other big thing that I think is very important is that we are seeking to make things easier for the citizen and the licensee. That is a dramatic, everyday effort that we are constantly seeing how to better serve our citizens and making sure you want is what we value, and feedback from you all is extremely important. So when you do contact us, believe it or not, every single contact we answer and we take seriously and make changes if we need to our processes. I don't know if anyone else wants to add.
I will just add that definitely contact us. You know, if you're considering a certain profession and maybe you're not sure how to navigate that, what you need to get into that profession, call the board, one of our boards for that, and they'll walk you through that process. If you're calling or maybe you have a family member who needs translation, we have a translation service, so they can call DPOR and we will get someone on the phone within minutes that can help translate your question or your loved one's question so that they can get answers immediately.
Nice. Barry?
All right, you go after me. All right, so mine's going to be about Better Business Bureau, hard to believe. But those of you that are accredited, thank you. So you are how we survive for your annual fee. Those of you who are not, learn about it. We've got a staff sitting behind to tell you how to become accredited, why to become accredited. Pay attention, follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We are the Better Business Bureau serving Central Virginia. So there's a lot of BBBs out there. There's 95 of us in the country. So there's a lot up on Facebook and social media. So look for Central Virginia. Know that, again, we work for you as consumers. I can't say that enough times. Come to our events. We offer this room for rental, for Rotary, Executive Women's International, Chamber of Commerce's. We work with any group. Figure in 42 counties, there's 42 Chamber of Commerce's that we're willing to work with also and partner with. Over in Chesterfield, we have a big project coming on board. A big building is going to be built, about a little over $1 billion. They make little toy pieces, if y'all know who I'm talking about. They don't like us using their name, I was told, so got to be very quiet about it. But if you don't know, I threw this out at the Chesterfield supervisor meeting last week. That's where I learned not to use their name. Imagine if Chesterfield County, just about that, they're going to have 1,761 employees. Imagine these people moving from around the world and from around our country to go to work at. They're an outside of the United States culture. They're a different type of business. Imagine if we gave them the royal treatment, just a white glove service that these 1,761 is the exact number, employees are able to go to market, buy a house, get a mortgage, get a plumber, get a landscaper, get a doctor, get a whatever service, a lawyer, a state will in the state, the Commonwealth. Imagine if they could go to the marketplace in Chesterfield County and deal with companies that are accredited that start. And what does that mean? And what is the experience going to be versus backfiring? I was involved a long time ago, that Sports Quest program in Chesterfield. They have a lot of fields out there. I was an early investor in that. It was a private deal that now the county owns. And then we have that. We have sports here in Rico. Imagine all these tourists coming from around our country, around the world for a soccer tournament, being able to go to a hotel that starts with trust. Puts the seal out there, so if you're accredited, chances are you don't use our seal. You should. You really should, because it's a differentiator. Tell people to check you out. Tell people you're different. And imagine going to a restaurant. So your best friend might own a restaurant. They might not be accredited. Suggest to them or ask them, say, you know what? I love coming here, Bobby, Mary Sue. I love it here, but I would encourage you to consider becoming accredited. So I know your licensing's up to date or whatever agency's running you and your complaints are up on the BBB site. We know you start with trust. That's a big deal. And when you start to do that, you'll start to see a community change. And if we could flip 42 counties, imagine what the entire Commonwealth will look like in less than a year, and the country can look like. And get rid of the scams and fraud. That we should not, in 2023, we should not be talking about scams and fraud. Nobody should be a victim anymore. Really should not. not with a licensing thing. You know, I go back to Virginia Urology. Everybody heard of them? They're everywhere, right? Well, I happen to have, I had to deal with a situation with cancer. I went to them. I didn't know they were accredited. I just had to go there. I had to go. I didn't have a choice. But they are accredited. I'd start reading about them, and they are exactly what I read online, and I was a patient. They're exactly who they say they are. Do things go wrong? Yeah. Think about what they're dealing with. Not everything's perfect. Sometimes the doctor has a little attitude, not in the writing. But let's help our community and grow it. Thank you to Channel 8, WRC. Delaney doing this is a big deal for us as a brand, for you as an audience, and their commitment to our community. And the staff back there, you know, streaming this will be up on Facebook, or not Facebook, be on YouTube, possibly. Yeah, I'm looking for the nod. So you'll be able to show this to your employees, your other friends and family, circulate it. But WRC is an accredited business, and all the other media stations in Richmond are accredited also. So it's a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
There are a few things that I would like to add as well. We've talked about the consumers, how we can help protect the health, safety, and welfare of the consumer, but we also listen to the licensees and future applicants, and one of those ways is those exams. So if there is something that you need as a licensee or as a consumer, please come to us and let us know, and we will certainly do what we can to assist you. And if we can't, we will certainly get you in the right direction.
Cool. Well, if you guys have hit all the big points you want to, I'll open it up to the audience. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. I'll run over the mic, be the mic runner. So. Well, we're gonna, so the camera can hear you. Yeah, all good.
Thank you. So you all have obviously done a wonderful job kind of just explaining what you stand for. With a new contractor coming in, working on getting licensed through DPOR and getting a new contract, is there like a contract template they should stand by, or do you have a recommendation with specific verbiage in the contracts that they use with their consumers?
There is not a template that we offer. However, in our regulations, there are 10 elements that are required to be in a residential contract. And so you can certainly download those from our website, or I can put that information out, and maybe we could put that information out on the BBB and have that on the website as well, those 10 elements.
I'm gonna get my steps in today, y'all.
So would that include, so for the contractors coming in from out of state, will they have to take the pre-license portion still and the business law portion still? Okay, so that's going to be still in place, but the technical exam will be gone. Well, the technical license then.
Are you speaking of the universal licensing?
Correct.
The universal licensing is only valid for individuals. So, sorry, we're talking about the universal licensing bill that was recently signed. That is for individuals. And so that is for your electrician or your HVAC mechanic coming in. Now for businesses, they would still be required to meet the eligibility requirements and apply. But they could certainly hire workers that come from another state and obtain their license through universal licensing.
So we're gonna switch it up. I'm gonna leave you all with this fun one, and I'm gonna bring this out there.
Thanks. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate all the information. I'm Sue Anderson. I'm with Steelhead Management, and I want to touch on the 2023 change in regulation for fair housing. It's going to be part of the discussion, and I don't know if any of you are prepared to talk about any of that.
We do have a fair housing office at DPOR. Unfortunately, I'm not versed in the fair housing. I can certainly take your card and get you in touch with the individuals. I believe it was last month was Fair Housing Month, and they do tons of outreach, and so certainly I will connect you with them.
Yeah. I was on the DPOR website, I want to say the last couple days, and I couldn't find a phone number to call anyone to make contact. So can you tell us the phone number?
Absolutely.
What? 804-367-8500. That will get you to our receptionist, and she can certainly route your call. Contractor questions, the call center to the contractors is 804-367-8511. And are there more phone numbers you know by heart?
So just generally navigating, if you go open up the website and go to DPOR.virginia.gov, depending on which occupation and board you're asking about, you can either search by occupation or by board, and then that'll take you to that specific page, particular board or occupation, and then from there with email addresses and phone numbers. But we will absolutely double check if there is no phone number on the main page.
Yes, sorry. We will definitely look into that. If it's the Virginia Office of Fair Housing that you are specifically looking for, that is under the Agents and Programs tab. That's right at the top. So you click on that, and then the Virginia Office of Fair Housing. And I know there's a phone number on that page, but we'll make sure to make sure our main number is visible. So thank you for sharing that with us.
And that was my mistake. I put in fair housing somewhere. I apologize, and I never got it off. So that was my mistake. Sorry about that.
Anyone else?
Good afternoon. Does DHCD, different organization?
Department of Housing Community Development is an agency under the Secretary of Commerce and Trade, also where the Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code do partner and work with them on of issues.
Thank you much.
Anyone else?
Can a contractor report another contractor to DPOR
Yes.
if they were doing work together? Like, you
Yes. Anyone can report anybody to DPOR. It's that simple. We're going to look at any information that we get that might be a violation of Virginia law or regulations under our authority. We'll look at. And sometimes you see that among professions that somebody reports somebody else for something, and it happen. But from our perspective, we look at it very objectively, and if it's a violation, it's a violation.
I'm going to walk back over here because I can't see. Panelists, is there anything else that you can think of that we haven't hit today?
What I'd say, just share what you've heard today. I tell people all the time about looking up, and I'll begin to add the BBB information as well. I use BBB. I mean, I was looking for a mechanic several weeks ago, and I was on BBB site. But an educated consumer is what stops scams. And just share that information, particularly those your loved ones that are elderly. A lot of the scamming does end up happening in that population. I've had calls. I recall vividly calls from my parents about a contractor that was at their house for like 4 hours one time, trying to sell siding, and that happens. And it's unfortunate. So share this information with your friends, churches, civic organizations. Very simply, all you have to do is share, hey, before you hire somebody, make sure that they have the license that they need to have. It's that simple. Particularly, I've seen some contractor construction projects that I've seen a house literally splitting down the middle. I mean, somebody's life savings, and in the middle of the house was about a 2.5-foot crack from one end to the other. The house was down over the course of the next couple of years. And so these are real things. They aren't just a cosmetic issue on a small project. They're real and they're serious. Real estate transactions, we also have a real estate transaction recovery fund. Real estate transactions also obviously handle a large portion of money. We also have cemeteries where loved ones are, and it's important that those are maintained. So there's just a very large variety of services and consumer knowledge that I think DPOR can be a resource. And so use us for that. We're available, and we do enjoy this. We enjoy, as odd as it is, we enjoy regulation. I've been doing occupational licensing for 17 years. And so it's an area that we are passionate about and happy to share and keep you safe.
I'm a retired contractor. I stay involved with VBCOA. VBCOA and DPOR. When I first came to Virginia, I asked a simple question: what's the going rate for building? And I was told normal. So what is normal? So then I drove from my jurisdiction up to Richmond and asked for a couple copies of the contractor's regulation. And in that contractor's regulation at that time, it gave you a list of everything that you needed to put in your contract. I did it. And I had court at least 6 times with clients. And because I did what DPOR told me to do, and it's gotten to the point where I would come up to the DPOR and the receptionist would say, "Here come Mr. Help Everybody." And I didn't have a problem with that, because if I help them, they'll help you. But I have never, ever sit down with a customer and dictate to them what they need. You tell me what you want, and I'll tell you if it's. But I am, till this day, still believe. And once they get to know you and understand that you are interested in doing what you promised you would do, you got the best friend in the world.
Yeah,
But
so
if you,
97% of our licensees have done the numbers, and so you're in the 97%, and we greatly appreciate that.
I hope so. I might have to come out of retirement. So I need your help.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I have a question about the recovery fund. Is there like is it the 20,000 per individual and up to a certain amount that's in the reserve? Like, is there like a reserve for the recovery fund? Like for the year?
There is a cap, $8,000 cap per case, and then there's a $40,000 cap per biennium. So that means the board cannot approve more than $40,000 every 2 years per contractor. And so if there's 4 consumers trying to obtain money from the transaction recovery fund for one particular contractor, they may be required to split that $40,000. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So, great question. I look at the BBB or DPOR site, doing preventative maintenance or medicine, do the checkup beforehand, check the vitals of a company before you go and do business with them, so you never have to get into this cap or whatever. Yeah, so I never. So I do speak, you already know that I'm an amazing speaker. I speak at Sunday schools. Rotary clubs, please get me on the email me. Tell me if this time of the afternoon is good. We're going to do more and more of these events. That's why we have this building. Again, we want to serve. There's so many other topics out there as consumers and people. So I will ask you this. So I do a lot of triad events. I don't think anybody in this room is old enough to go to triad yet, but you will be someday. I can. But you'll be getting a certain age, and it might be over 60. Triad is in a lot of our counties in the Commonwealth. And there's seniors that get together and they meet with the Sheriff's Department, BBB, and other organizations, and we talk about fraud and scams. We try to get people not to get hurt. But again, I'm going out in a different way saying, let's prevent that. And these folks, 75 years old, guess what? They have Google. They're able to look a company up, and they're doing a lot of research, believe it or not. So I ask all of them, I'm going to ask all of you, because you know me now. What is my name? Barry Moore. I work here. I'm a nice, I am a nice guy. I'm just telling you. Don't look back and look at my staff. They might be saying no. But I know you really trust me. Please go in your pocket, pull out a $10 bill, and give it to me. And tomorrow night, I am going to give you $100. Melvin, come on. You're not grabbing $10 for me? You're going to give me $10 if I give you $100 tomorrow night? There's always one in the crowd. No, you wouldn't. Because I didn't know way I'm giving you $100. Because why? Every triad group gets this right. It's too good to be true. So if you remember nothing else, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Go back to the contractor. I sold roofing and solar for 7 months. I loved it. It's the Wild West selling solar right now up in Pittsburgh. It's wild. And we don't even understand what they're doing because they're brokering everything. Nobody's installing it. They're hiring somebody that hires somebody else. So good luck on that warranty. It's a nightmare. I believe in solar. I just don't believe in the way it's going in right now. But there are some very reputable companies that are accredited here with us. So we did the research and they're doing it the right way. And the last thing, workforce development. Everybody needs workers right now. Everybody. I will tell you, V3 program, the vets, they started that program a number of years ago. At Haley Buick GMC, I think I was one of the first to sign up for that program. I encourage you to check it out. Then I encourage you to learn, again, going back to Chesterfield, the HARP program, Heroin Addiction Recovery Program. People in the recovery program, in the jails, being released, they need a job. They need a chance. They need to go back to a workforce that's clean and doesn't get them addicted back to something again. Okay, so you got to run a company that's clean and make a commitment to that. And the other program that I talk about, Real Life, Dr. Sarah Scarborough runs that program. These people are in homes around the area, the Tri-County area, and they're learning how to get back out on their feet and go to work. Those might be the best employees you can ever hire, but you got to get over the skepticism. They've already done their time. They've already done the recovery period. I hired a number of them in my previous life, and I did very well. And I hired a lot out of Richmond City Jail. So I'm just throwing that out there that anybody needs employees, don't not think about that. Think about those programs that are out there. That's all from the BBB.
I will add, for businesses looking for employees, Virginia Apprenticeship is a wonderful program, a training program, particularly for smaller businesses where you may not have the time, resources to create your own training program. Really, this is it's almost like a package of a training program handed to you from Virginia's Department of Labor and Industry. And soon to be a new agency, a workforce development that the governor signed into law recently. But apprenticeship is an area that people can get skilled in a new area, and you get somebody who is trained the way you believe they should be trained for your particular company, and typically stays much longer than others hired in different ways. So apprenticeship is a wonderful opportunity that state resources can assist businesses with.
Okay, thank you, panelists, for your wisdom. I learned a lot today. I hope you guys have as well. Yeah, Barry, if you want to wrap it up, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Time to watch you. No, I'm done.
Oh, yeah. I
What
mean,
time can they watch you on TV?
every weekday, 4:30 to 7 and 9 and noon on Channel 8. Thanks for the plug.
4:30 to see the lady. You did a great job. Thank you all very much for being
Yes,
here.
thank you.
Thank you, DPOR.
Thank you.
Guys?